And that was sort of like the first point where I realized that if you actually ask people for help, and
Hmm.
especially people who are like already established, and you've got kind of a competitive advantage. I graduated from school in my last semester of school. I was going to Arizona State University. In my last semester in school, I was waitressing. I'd been waitressing at this like 100-year-old restaurant in Phoenix, which was, kind of an institution. And it's like they'd hate for me to say it, but it's like a dumpy divey, like great Mexican food place. And there was this guy that used to come in a lot, and sometimes he'd be with friends. Other times he would just be by himself. And so one day I was waiting on him, and I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And he said, "Good." And he was like, "So are you graduating?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, actually I'm graduating in a couple of months." And he's like, "What are you going to do?" And I said, it's like the question of the hour, right? When you're like
Hmm.
graduating or you're just graduated, I was like, I don't know. Like, I said, I'm probably not going to be waitressing, but you never know. Like, I was like, whatever, just being really authentic and honest about it. And I just did what, a decent, communicator would do. I said, "So what do you do?" Like he had asked me what I did. And so I just said, "So what do you do?" And he said, "Oh, I do product placement." And I was like, what do you mean?" And he said, "I do product placement on movie sets for Anheuser-Busch." I was like, "Wait, I know what Anheuser-Busch is. So wait, you put beer on movie sets?" And he said, "Yeah, we film lots of stuff in Scottsdale. And so that's what my job is." And I was like, somewhat serious, but somewhat joking. I was like, "Can you get me a job doing that? That'd be so fun. I'm a college student, right? That I'm like putting beer on sets. That'd be awesome, right?" And and so he said, "If you're serious, I'm happy to see if I can get you an interview." And I said, "Sure." And he said, "But the interview's in Los Angeles." And I lived in Phoenix. And I said, I'll go to Los Angeles for sure to go and interview." And he said, "Okay, well, give me your email and I'll try and set you up." So when he set me up, then I thought, well, if I'm going to be going over there, maybe there's some other opportunities that I should look for. And so I said to him, I was like, "Listen, I'm interviewing at, your firm and so appreciative. But in addition, do you know any other people that might need like entry level people? Because I'm going to LA anyway, and I might as well just try and
Hmm.
interview for a few days." And he was like, "Yeah, actually, I do know people." And that was sort of like the first point where I realized that if you actually ask people for help, and
Hmm.
especially people who are like already established, and you've got kind of a competitive advantage, especially if you're young and you're presentable, right? Like, and you're
Hmm.
curious. And like he was like, I'm happy to reach out to them." And so he did. And there were a couple of other interviews. And then one of the people that he introduced me to said, "You have to go to San Francisco to interview." And I was like, "Well, I'll go to San Francisco." Anyway, this continued on, and it was like, "You'll have to go to Chicago. You'll have to." And then finally, I just said, "There's like one place where I really want to work, and that's Fortune magazine." And so it was based out of New York. And so finally, I just said, "Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to map this thing out, and I'm going to go to a travel agency." This is back before Expedia and Travelocity and all the rest of them. And so I went to a travel agency and I said, "I want to go from Phoenix to LA to San Francisco to Chicago, Boston, and New York, and over a 30-day period." And then I figured I'd just tell them I would be there in these cities in certain dates. And the travel agent called me back and she said, "It'll be like $472 for the airplane ticket." And I said, "Oh, I don't know if you heard me correctly. I wanted to go like it's single legs all the way around the country." And she said, "No, that's
Hmm.
right." And so I took out my Visa card and, thankfully it wasn't maxed out. And I gave it to her and I got the ticket because I kind of like was curious if there was like a mistake or something along the way. And I was,
Yeah.
like a little nervous about it. But so she gave it to me. And what I realized is like, I think I left, I think I took off to go to Los Angeles, and I had probably half of the interviews already set up. But as I was like going on my way, I kept telling people my story. They're like, "Oh, what else are you doing this afternoon?" And I was really honest about it. I was like, "I'd, love to work for you, so don't take this the wrong way." But I said, I'm going and interviewing with a couple of other companies. And they're like, "Oh, like what kind of roles?" And then, and I would tell people, like, I just figured I had nothing to lose. So I would just share with people. And they said, "That's really great. Like, are you interested in other things?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to Chicago. I've never been there. I'm really excited, to go there because I had never been there." And they were like, "That's amazing that you just like went and found all these interviews." And what I figured out about like that journey too was like there were so many roles that I didn't even know existed beyond the whole product placement. Like I didn't know what a consultant really was, or nobody taught me that in school. And these were roles that I didn't know anybody who was doing it. And so during those 30 days, I asked all my friends, like, "Hey, do you think I can stay with your friend in Chicago or your parents?" And I always had like a little bit of money to buy like a plant or a bottle of wine, like, so that I was like a gracious guest. Like I was always, really conscious about that. But otherwise, it was just 30 days it was amazing. And I learned a lot about myself, and I came home and I was just like, wow, I was so happy. Like I didn't know what I was going to learn out of it. Instead, I was like, I feared it a little bit. I was a little nervous. I didn't get all 90 job offers, but I had a lot of job offers. And I think it's, I tell this story to a lot of, college campuses, and also just kids that I know. I'm like, listen, I paid for myself to actually go and show up there, and it 100% paid off. It was an investment in me, but it was also an investment in, me trying to like learn about all these roles, because I don't know about you, but like, you read stuff, but you just don't really like, I don't know. It's way different when somebody who's senior level like calls his friend and says, "Hey, do you need an administrative assistant?" And they're like, "Oh my God, I don't, but my friend down the hall keeps like looking for somebody. So yeah, connect me." And then all of a sudden they, that you're not going in when they have posted something and competing with all these people. You're coming in at a very different level.